Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Chargers Powder Hour. Chargers drop a close battle to the Tennessee Titans, 27-24. Colin and Miles Raruka, we are here. We are your co-host, and we are ready to talk you back off the ledge, if that's possible, after this heartbreaking second loss in a row that the Chargers have suffered. But man, how you doing? How you doing after that one?
Sucks, man. I just got to keep reminding myself it's only week 2. A lot of time to turn things around. But yeah, 0-2, definitely not the start that I envision, that you envision, that really this whole fan base envisioned. Sucks, man. It really just sucks.
Yeah. Today was a really tough one to swallow. I feel like we should be used to it at this point, and I kind of am. I think numb is probably the better word. Just because after the first 2 or 3 minutes after the final whistle, I was just like in this state of, I was mad, I was upset, but it was just like almost like calming,
Yeah,
and I almost like I expected it. Like even from the moment we forced overtime, it just kind of felt like we were delaying the inevitable, and that was tough because I wanted that notion to be false, but ultimately it was what ended up happening. So another tough late loss, and Chargers are now, we found themselves in an 0-2 hole. So that's gonna require some work to get out of. But before we dive into all the X's and O's, you have to tell me you're drinking something. You have to be. There's no way you're sober after that one.
I'm drinking water, and I'll tell you why. Because I was absolutely annihilated yesterday. I mean, it's first Husker game day here in Lincoln yesterday. We got after it. The boys got after
Oh
it.
yeah.
So, no, I'm just hydrating really more than anything. I'm pretty battered and bruised, and honestly, I'm more battered and bruised after that game. So, there we go.
I am sipping on a vodka soda. I almost said tequila soda, and I was like, no, that's not it. It's vodka soda. Because I need something heavy after that loss. I haven't really drank it much this weekend, really at all, or today. But yeah, I mean, I've had a few beverages since the finish of the Chargers Titans game for sure. I think this is number 2 actually, so this is only my second. But yeah, definitely going with the heavier stuff, and I'm gonna need it to get through the rest of this episode. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take the sober approach, just take it on the chin, and hopefully get some questions answered because there's a lot of them surrounding this team. That is a certainty, and hopefully we can shed some light on what exactly is going on. So,
100%, man. Like I said, 27-24 was the final score. What was just kind of your instant reaction? Why we're starting it off here? Really, just what's on the front of your mind after that loss?
yeah, really, like you said, dude, it was not unexpected, which just sucks being a fan and just knowing that this is most likely going to be the outcome, or at least that it's never going to be easy, and it wasn't easy today. And yeah, my initial outcome, dude, when we had that long drive in regulation and had to settle with tying the game instead of scoring a touchdown, that was just like that's Chargers football. That is
That was the
just
game right
that is
there.
the perfect definition of Chargers football. When that happened, I was like, I liked our chances in OT, just because I'll take our offense over their offense any day. But yeah, man, there was just a lot of situational stuff just all day, situational play calling, situational protection for Justin Herbert. Just nothing was great. It felt like we did a lot of things that were good today, but not much really stuck out on paper, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean that's a great take. I was just underwhelmed with kind of all phases of the game today. I mean, offense definitely. I think. I mean, they continue to look good. I think it's easy to be like, why didn't they do more? And that's a fair question. 24 points. We were talking here just the other day on the preview episode, thinking, they're at least probably going to put up 30, 31, somewhere in that range. So to only get 24 is definitely not what you expected. You expected to get more out of your offense. But I think they took, a few other steps forward in the passing game. Justin looked like Justin Herbert, was making throws, squeezing the ball into tight windows. And, it was just, it's one of those, like, when you got to have it, you have to have it. And the Chargers just did not, or were not able to convert those plays today. I mean, I think I have it right here. They went 2 for 14 on third downs
Yeah,
after going 9 for 15 a week ago against the Dolphins defense. You're just not going to win a lot of games when you go 2 for 14. If you can't extend drives, if you can't take advantage of, you know, other, big plays in the game, and there weren't really a lot of turnovers, or there weren't any turnovers
mm-mm.
in this game. So, that wasn't a factor, but you got to be able to sustain drives. You got to be able to build momentum, whether it's in the fourth quarter and you need a drive to put the game away, which they had a couple of opportunities to do, or if it's, just early in the game, trying to establish a rhythm and some momentum. They just weren't able to do it. You know, they put up 342 yards, which is it's a respectable number, but when they had to have it, this offense, I think that's 2 weeks in a row now, and key critical situations, they just aren't able to get it done.
Yeah, dude. We had 4 drives after we took a 21-17 lead in the fourth quarter to put the game away, entirely. If we could have just, gone up 28-17, I mean, that's huge. That's huge for the squad. And then, like we just were talking about, the drive at the end, settling for a field goal just sucks. Really, just the fact that you can't put the game away right there. Titans were going to get the ball back with like 15 seconds, down 4. I mean, it was the game if we could get a touchdown on that play. But
Yeah.
yeah, had to settle for a field goal there. Obviously, offense went 3 and out, first drive of overtime, and then there's 2 drives before the field goal to tie the game up that just couldn't get
Yeah.
anything going.
Probably the
And
saddest overtime possession that I can remember
that was
in a
that
long time.
the third down play call was just an absolute fuck show. I mean, I don't know like what kind of miscommunication was going on there, but just oh god, dude, just horrible. Just horrible all over in
It
the end
just
of the
seems
game.
like, I mean, if we're talking instant takeaways, instant reactions, it just seems like sloppiness is a theme. At least it has been over the first 2 weeks now. It's just, there's no attention to detail. There's just, whether it's game management or play calling or just executing fundamental defense, fundamental football. We saw a handful of penalties today that definitely hurt the Chargers. Also was another reason why they weren't able to get off the field on certain drives. It just seems like, especially on offense, there's moments last week and this week where, the ball's being snapped, and I don't even think everyone on offense knows what the fuck's going on. Or the tempo that that they keep talking about and trying to establish is fine, but they're using it in like situations where it's like, you don't need to get on the ball and go right now. You can take 30, like, get everyone on the same page, spend some time in a huddle. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just part of the learning curve that Justin's still going through and learning, but yeah, I just think it's overall, like, one word is just sloppiness.
Sloppiness and inconsistencies. I mean, we can see this offense go down 95 yards in 10 plays, just lead a slow, methodical drive and get it done in the end. And then situationally, towards the end of the game, you can go all the way down and come up short from getting it done, which is just too bad. I mean, 4 drives. I mean, we have to point the finger somewhat at Justin at some point. I mean, it just feels like, I don't know if it's because visually, I mean, he's not missing throws or anything, but there's got to be some sort of reads or something that he can do better. I mean, there's just simply no reason why this offense wasn't able to
Yeah.
close out this game in the end.
It's such an unfair finger point too, I might add. Like, I think you're right to a degree, but it's also hard to point that finger at someone that goes like 305 yards, completed, I don't know, 60 some percent of his passes, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Like, that should be enough on its own. Like, I
Yeah.
totally understand that side of the argument. Like, 100%. Like, that is an argument to be made. Um, Again, I think it's just they haven't had, and I don't know. I mean, some people call it luck, other people call it, that clutchness, clutch gene. Um, they just have not had that over the first 2 weeks. Overall, when you zoom out and look at the entire stats from the entire game, they've done enough on offense both weeks. It's just, they've failed to get that one drive extending first down that can chew up another 2 or 3 minutes of clock, or they fail to get that, that one extra field goal that can push it from a 1 possession to a 2 possession game. Like, I I looked straight at my girlfriend when they started the drive. I think there was like around the 7 minute mark, and we got the ball back after making a stop, and we were still up by 4. And I just said, "Remember this drive at the end, win or lose, just remember this drive." And she was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because they have a chance to put it away right here. They can take 4 or 5 minutes off this clock, go get 6, make this a 2 possession game. It's over." And sure enough, they failed to get. I don't know if they might have gotten 1 first down. I don't think they went 3 and out that drive, but they ended up punting, and the snowball just continued to get bigger. So, um, yeah, it's a tough finger to point at Justin, but ultimately, I think he
You
should get some of the blame.
you
He
just
should.
have to at some point. I
He
mean, like
should. Yeah.
he's our savior. He is what we watch Chargers football for, essentially. And
I
I
just
mean,
it just makes my blood boil when someone like Justin is gonna, like, after this week in football, people are gonna look at Jalen Hurts and say he had a better performance than Justin Herbert, and it's like one quarterback threw for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, completed a healthy amount of his passes. The other one failed to throw for 200 yards. I think he had 1 touchdown, maybe 2. I don't know, maybe 2.
Mhm.
But he's getting way more help from the rest of his offense, from his defense, from his coaching staff. And it's just, God, it pisses me off that, like, Herbert's out here like trying to slay every dragon by himself, and he's getting no help. Like, his staff is getting outcoached every week. Um, his defense can't fucking stop anything right now, and the secondary just looks terrible. Like, he's getting no help. And it's not a new theme. I mean, we should be used to it at this point, but god damn, it's so old at this point. Like, it's so played out, and I hate
sucks,
it.
dude. It's all shit that we've seen before. This game, I swear to God, I've watched the Chargers play this exact football game at least 10 times in the last 5 years. I mean,
Oh, probably
it's
more, dude. This isn't a weekly thing now.
well,
Well,
yeah, but
since
I'm saying
Staley's been here, so yeah, you're right.
like just I don't know, dude. A lot of shit needs to get figured out. Defensively to me, it really felt like a much obviously it was a much better effort than last week. I mean, we had 4 sacks. I think Joey had 2, Thule had 1, Morgan Fox had 1. And just the explosive plays though. I mean, they got 7 off of that deep pass to Treylon Burks. They got another 7 off of that deep pass that Michael Davis was in great position on, but Tannehill just threw a dart. And I mean, just
Couple big
getting
runs.
a few big runs. I want to say Henry's biggest run was only like 13 yards, but yeah, Tajay
No, he had
Spears.
one for like 25.
Did he have one that long?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I would say that we did limit the explosion on the ground for quite a bit of it. I mean, Derrick Henry only had 18 yards on 80 yards, excuse me, on 25 carries. So I mean, I think our defense did of their fair share to win today, but yeah, at the end of the day, they didn't get the stops when it mattered, and that's really that's really the story of the game.
Yeah, the story of the game for me on defense was they just could not get off the field. Could not get off the field. And this stat paired with the other stat, I mean, it's the same stat, but it's just from each team. But the third down conversion rate. So the Chargers go 2 for 14, and the Titans go 6 for 13. That right there in itself, usually you say, you look at the turnover battle, and whoever wins that, you give a pretty good chance to win the football game. Well, when there's no turnovers, that's a pretty key factor of how this game ended up turning out. One defense is able to get off the field, and the other defense is not. And the defense that was not also had to go up against Derrick Henry. And I think the announcers on the game, the broadcasters, put it in a perfect analogy of, did you hear them talking about like waves? How
Waves.
waves
Yeah,
come and
Derrick
like,
Henry comes in waves. Yeah.
yeah, like usually, or just waves in general. When you're on the beach, like every fourth or fifth wave is usually like the biggest wave. And so like, he wasn't getting much in that first quarter, but as they keep, running him out there, like he gets stronger. And I feel like our defense over time definitely, kind of caved into that. And when it came down to it, when they had to get off the field, they were just giving up like 4 or 5 yards of carry. And, stops were tough to come at that point. So overall, man, I think the box score is probably going to indicate that this was a better performance than last week. But I think the eye test says it was just about the same. I mean, it was a little bit better in the sense that we were able to dial up more pressure, get a few more sacks. That was promising. But this secondary, man, is an issue.
Yeah. It's
A
not
big
great.
issue.
It's not great. That's for sure. Think
And
about if we weren't able to dial up pressure, that secondary today, I mean, it would have probably looked like last week.
yeah, it did at times. I mean, like you said, they still are unable to prevent the big play. They Ryan Tannehill is dropping dimes on you over over your head. Like it's not gonna look good. And that's what happened a few times. It just seems like this scheme is not it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm watching this, these games, and I'm watching this defense operate, and it just, they are allowing opposing offenses just to take way too much, you know. And I think I mean, today was a great example. You look at the quarterback Ryan Tannehill. You look at the week he had last week. He should not have had the game that he had. Like, he didn't have a crazy game by any means, but it's still, you just cannot allow that kind of performance. And I don't know, man. Like, it just, time after time, I'm thinking like, why the fuck are we playing so much zone? We play man last week and we get burned, and that's okay because you're playing two of the fastest receivers in the league. Like, I don't care. Like, they're gonna make everyone look bad at some point. But it just seemed like they were scared to get back into man a lot. They were like, well, it didn't work last week, so might as well try zone. Like, it
Which, like,
just,
situationally makes zero sense. I mean, why not run zone last week and man this week? We're not dealing with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle this week. We're dealing with DeAndre Hopkins, slow ass, and a quarterback with that is definitely not top tier whatsoever. So yeah, I don't get it, man. I don't understand the game plan going into last week versus this week when it feels like those roles should have been reversed for sure.
yeah, and it just feels like there was a few third down, like 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5s that Tennessee converted where, we're playing a soft zone. No one's, we got one guy within 5-6 yards of DeAndre Hopkins. Like, you give him that much space, it's fucking easy. Like, it's a pitch and catch for first down, and I've seen too much of that. Um, this defense is too forgiving, and it's too much of a bend don't break philosophy. Like, they're okay with teams just fucking opposing their will and getting the yards every week, as long as they're able to tighten up in the red zone and force a field goal. Like, it's a win, and it is like, that is a win for any defense out there. But you just can't allow that over and over, consistently. Like, defense is going to get tired. Defense isn't always going to be able to hold up. You might be able to do it for 2 or 3 drives in the first half, but in the second half, those are going to turn into touchdowns.
Dude,
And I feel like that's. Go
sorry,
ahead.
but especially when you're going blow for blow with Derrick Henry, like the most physical running back in the game, that's gonna wear guys out a lot. And I think that was somewhat apparent towards the end of the game.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't feel like that's a thing that's new. I feel like most of the opponents we play, they feel like they get stronger in the second half, at least offensively. In the trenches, our defensive line seems to, not every game. There are performances that they hold their own and stand out, but lately it definitely seems like this defensive line is just, starting to get pushed further and further back as the game continues.
Yeah, unfortunately, I just think that's the reality of how this defense is going to be this year. It's going to be just trying our best to scratch out wins via the offense this year. And I don't really see, me personally, I don't see a ton of, I don't see like this unit changing just like overnight. I think after last week, today was a better step. At least we were able to do things like generate pressure this week. So that is one step forward at least, but really just an uninspired unit ran by an absolute bozo at this point, and that's not gonna bode well for our success on the field.
Yeah, man, I agree. I don't think it's gonna be. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully, it gets better. It has to. I mean, we talked about that.
That literally has to, yeah.
We talked about that before on the last episode. Yeah, it literally has to, because it can't get much worse than it is. They gave up 141 yards on the ground, and they gave up 200, a dead even 200 in the air. So definitely better showing on paper when you look at the secondary, but you look at the chunk plays and how they got that 200, and it's sometimes that's just as important. Like, how did they get the 200? Because if it's 2 big bombs that result in you know points, then I don't care if you just had 200 yards. Like, those are 2 big plays that impact the game. So again, they just cannot prevent the big play. They just cannot get out of the way of it. And that's a I don't know what that feeling is of just like, I guess it's anxiety of like, I feel like you feel it coming every week as a fan when you're watching. Um, you're just waiting for it. You're like, oh God, when's it going to happen? What quarter is it going to be this week? Is it going to be the first quarter? Is it going to be the fourth quarter? Like, that's how I feel at this point. Like, I don't know when it's coming, but I know there's going to be a 40, 50, 60-yard bomb or just breakaway run somewhere trickled in there.
I was about to say, dude, it feels like at this point, the second that ball is in the air on a deep throw, as a Chargers fan, you're like, fuck, like there's 60 yards. It's either going to be completion or we're going to have some dumbass push him in the back for a free PI. It's like,
It feels like
at this
70
point,
30.
it's like, dude, it's just
50-50 balls, or 70-30 when it's against our secondary
yeah,
in
70
favor
30,
of the
dude. It
other
might
team.
be 80-20. Like it's ridiculously bad how much. And dude, all offseason we were preached like defensively, like we want to shape this defense. We don't want to give up any explosive plays, or at least limit explosive plays and get a lot of takeaways. This is a QB that threw 3 picks last week, didn't throw a single one today, and I mean looked like Joe Montana out there, like against this
Yeah.
secondary. I think that my friggin' high school quarterback would probably look like Joe Montana out there against this defense. It's bad,
It's
dude.
bad. You just said something that like triggered something in my own head, but it's bad when Brandon Staley's entire defensive scheme is set up to prevent the big play, keep everything in front, contain, and
And it
it
does the
still is
opposite.
inevitable.
Yeah, and
Like,
it does
it
the
just does not
opposite.
matter. It's gonna happen. Yeah, like you're like, oh my gosh, that is great. And it's little things like, I was trying to focus less on the stats this week and just kind of watch this defense, how they operate, how they look, how the vibes I'm getting from them throughout the game. And that first possession out of halftime told me a lot about not only just but a lot, maybe more about the staff, about halftime adjustments, because there was no adjustment. They come out, score a touchdown on that opening drive. Defense just gives up the yards, gives up. I think there was an explosive play on that drive. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but it just seemed like they got points back way too quick at a halftime, and then they take a lead, and it's kind of on from there. But that to me was like, really? That's the first possession at a half? Like those are the adjustments you made? Like they come down to get 6 points and take the lead. Yeah, it just stuff like that tells me a lot about this defense. And also, same thing earlier in the game. You're up 11-0. Vibes are good. Offense is rolling. Fun 2-point conversion to Trey Pipkins to make this kind of feel like, hey, this might be a fun little Sunday.
Yeah, we can actually enjoy this. And then, flash forward about
30 seconds later. 30 seconds later,
Yeah.
it's 11-7.
Yeah.
Like, that's what kills this team. That's what kills me watching them is like, it doesn't matter if you're up 11-0 if they're going to get 7 points back 30 seconds fucking later. You have to make opposing offenses earn every inch, every yard, every point. And when you just give up a 70-yard bomb, and it's all of a sudden the second play, they're inside your 5-yard line. It's like, okay, well, I hope the offense can come back and respond now. Like it flips the pressure onto the offense. Like shit. Now we're in a game. Now we're in a battle. We have to go put more. Like it's just things like that just absolutely kill any sort of momentum that you have.
I get it, man. It's tough. It's tough. I don't, especially this defensive backfield. I think that just what we have right now is what we have, and I won't even go as far as to say it's necessarily the pieces that are out on the field. It's how those pieces are being used. I literally just think that I think Brandon Staley has done nothing, not a single thing for this defense all season, and I don't really see it changing. He seems pretty stuck in how he wants to do things, and changing for Brandon Staley is not changing adjustments. That's not a thing for Brandon Staley. He's gonna run what he wants to run, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, which it doesn't, he's gonna just do the same shit. So, yeah, at some point, it really sucks, man. At some point, we need to change. I don't know. I don't want to get into the Staley talk because then it's just a broken record.
I do, but I just
dude,
didn't.
but we can't
I had it. I had it
week.
saved. I had it saved for like later in the episode again. But we can wait. We can wait. We don't have to get into it right here, right now.
All right, fair enough. But yeah, defensively, I do want to give a shout out to Kenneth Murray. I thought he played his best game that I've watched him play in his career. I think that this is a kind of offense that K9 can actually be effective against. Just another team that just is physical, which I mean that is one thing that I will say about K9 is his physicality is definitely there.
He definitely took a step forward this week. I'll give him his flowers for the time being, but it's 1 week,
Yeah, I know nothing special, but I did see we actually saw some stuff from him on the field, which is weird. So
again, I'll just leave it at that. But let's transition over to the offensive side of the ball because we could probably keep talking the rest of the hour about this defense. But I do want to talk about the offense because now we've seen it for 2 weeks. Still not a very large sample size at all with the Kellen Moore offense, his era of being a Chargers offense coordinator. So, good and bad things, I think, this week. It looked like they took a step forward in some facets of the offensive game, but it looked like they also had some of the same struggles and issues that we saw last week. So kind of more of the same and maybe sprinkle in a little bit of more razzle dazzle excitement, I guess.
Yeah, I mean the Pipkins 2-point was fun, like you were just talking about. I like Keenan and Mike both look pretty good today. Using Mike in some weird ways, a jet sweep to Mike Williams. I didn't have that on my bingo card for the day.
I didn't know We just said fuck you to Quentin Johnson. That's the
Pretty
second
much,
we drafted him.
dude.
Like, dude, what a
We
weird. I was thinking about it today. What a weird, and it's. I don't know if anyone else has thought about this, but maybe I'm the only one that's thought about this. What a weird storyline that's playing out in front of our eyes, and I don't even think it's big enough of a storyline to mention, or just for it to be mentioned much. But like, you draft Quentin Johnson, and you're in the first round. I believe it will hit the 21st pick.
21, yeah.
All sorts of hype over the offseason, over mini camp, OTAs, training camp, right? We come into training camp actually being told by Quentin Johnson himself that he has already wrapped up a starting position as the wide receiver 3 on this team. That was mentioned. That was a thing. That was in articles. That was probably a headline in some articles. So that was definitely a thing. Only to find out that he's not the wide receiver 3. He's actually the wide receiver 4 right now. He didn't necessarily win a starting job, according to him, and maybe according. And I'm not saying that he like came out and just fucking lied or, was like trying to. What's the word I'm looking for? Wish it into existence, manifest it. But it just seems weird right now because not only, that's fine. Like Josh Palmer had a great camp. That's not to say that someone else didn't rightfully earn that role, but now it just seems weird because of how they've used him over the first 2 weeks, or the lack of how they've used him, I should say. And it seems like some of these opportunities that other guys in the offense are getting should be going to Quentin. I think those Mike Williams jet sweeps and all those screens. Good God, can we just stop throwing screens to Mike Williams for the love of God? Like anyone else at this point.
It works. It can get 5 yards here and there, but dude,
5 yards is like the best result.
yeah,
It
I know.
usually
No,
goes
I
for like
agree.
3.
I agree. I thought that we drafted Quentin Johnson to bring a guy in to do things like that. And meanwhile, he's getting out snapped by Darius Davis right now. Quentin Johnson's pretty much a wide receiver 5 on this team at this point. Like
Yeah.
there has not been a role for him in this offense whatsoever through 2 weeks.
And again, like I don't know who it falls. I mean, it falls. I would place it just on everyone, but like I don't know. It's early. Like there's not to say that there can't be more of a role for QJ in this offense going forward. But it's already kind of starting to feel like I don't want to say like a bad pick or a lost pick, but a weird pick. Definitely feels weird. Definitely feels like you would want to invest more capital into your first round draft pick and have him, be involved in many ways. But that's not the vibe I'm getting, and that's just not the case so far. And it really kind of feels like, I mean, if you go back into April and where they picked and where things kind of settled at 21, I mean, they could have gone other routes. I'm not saying that they should have or could have, but I'm just saying that, you would think with the first round draft pick, with all that hype, all that buzz, you'd want to incorporate him more than they have so far, and it just feels weird.
Big time. I think we know how brittle our receiver room is, so I do think as the season kind of goes on, as some guys get banged up, we're gonna see a much larger role for him. But yeah, I don't know. One big aspect of the passing game I want to talk about is the deep shots, dude. Where have they been? We haven't. It doesn't feel like. I mean, we hit Keenan on the sideline earlier today and kind of a busted coverage. But other than that, dude, this feels very similar to Lombardi's kind of play calling scheme. It feels like a lot of stuff just right around the sticks, a lot of comebacks. I haven't been necessarily blown away with the passing game quite yet, but it's worked through 2 weeks. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say our passing game is just absolute shit. It's worked, but I mean, just with the kind of guy Justin Herbert is, I don't feel like he's been fully unleashed yet. We haven't seen him going over the top to many dudes yet.
I think they took a step forward in that aspect today. They definitely were more aggressive. I feel like maybe with the matchup with that defense, they felt like they had some more chances to take shots down the field. I don't know if those looks ever materialized much last week. But where's all the play action? Like where's the play action? I feel like that was one of the things that people were talking about with Kellen Moore coming over this offseason. Like that was going to be more of a staple of this offense of bootlegs rolling out and running guys across the field, like just giving Justin more chances to make plays with his legs and on the run. What's usually that's where he plays some of his best football is, kind of improvising a little bit and finding guys downfield. So as well as we've run the ball over the first week, I mean, we didn't run it that great today, but I do think you have to factor in, Austin Eckler's absence because he is a big, um, big player in that running game. I think they got 61 yards on the ground today. So not great, but, even last week, even going back to, throughout the second half last week, I was like, where are all these play action passes? I mean, we're getting 5-6 yards a carry at times. And it just seems like I kept waiting for it. And today I didn't see much of it either. So that's what shocked me the most about, I mean, yes, that too, just the deep shots in general, but I feel like you're going to get more of those if you run more play action looks.
100%. And it just, I mean, Eckler being out today was, I think, more of a storyline than we really anticipated. I really thought we missed his presence out there today. Just having guys like Elijah Dotson and Joshua Kelly in there is great. But just that other element, I believe our running backs, Elijah Dotson caught 2 passes for 13 yards, and that was all for the receiving work for our running backs. Just those guys out of the backfield help so much more in the passing game than I think we realize, especially Austin Eckler. And I think that really showed today. I think that's definitely one of the bigger reasons why our third down conversions were so poor.
That's another reason I think our third down conversion was not great today was because we have to talk about our offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, my grade for them today, and I think this is I think is being generous, but I gave them a B minus. I
Yeah,
think they
I
could
think
very well have C
for the guy,
plus, B minus range, but I'll be generous and give them a B minus.
dude, for sure. I think like with the talent that this offensive line has, that there's just too many breakdowns in times when we really needed it. Whether it was that final third down on that drive that we had to settle for the field goal, or I mean, there were so many other instances of critical play coming up, and Zion Johnson just lets somebody come right through, or there's decent coverage downfield, just not giving Justin enough time to find anything. It just man, I thought that our offensive line issues have been fixed. And I would say that it's obviously a much better unit than we've seen over this is probably maybe the best offensive line we've seen as Chargers fans, maybe.
In
But
a
I
while,
mean,
yeah.
they're not perfect, obviously, in that show today.
Yeah, it was kind of a bummer, but that has been something I've noticed over the first couple weeks as well. Is just, they've are just breaking down in the worst possible times. And I don't know how much of that's really controllable. It just kind of is maybe bad timing, bad luck through the first couple weeks. Um, but yeah, I mean, I look at more of the 2 of 14 on third down. I think that contributes to the offensive line play somewhat. The 61 yards on the ground. At times, there was a few runs. I can't remember exactly when they were, but they were getting stuffed on like third and shorts. You know, second and shorts. Like it's like, getting stuffed on second and 2 or second and 1's not a big deal, but then it just sets up a you know, unnecessary third down, which could potentially bring up a fourth down. So, you're just playing that game of just move the sticks, keep it rolling. And it just seemed like even at times throughout the game today, um, the offensive line just was not able to get that separation and get those holes created for the backs.
Yeah, just not a very dynamic offense today. Just we felt very pass heavy, which I'm not necessarily upset with that aspect, but like we've talked about before, running the ball is more about just that physical aspect of football, just being able to like wear down your opponent, wear down the defense, kind of like what the Titans are able to do with Derrick Henry. Just such another aspect to your offensive game plan that really really helps, not only just being able to move the ball, but I mean it helps all facets. It obviously being when the running game's good, then you have so many more opportunities for the pass game to take over, and that just wasn't the case today, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think they gave up 3 sacks. I know for a fact Zion gave up 1. I know Trey Pipkins gave
Trey
up
Pipkins
1.
gave up one.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure where the other one came from.
I think it was no, Corey Linsley gave up one tackle for loss, but yeah, I know Zion and Pipkins for sure. I would have to go back and look at the film
Was it
for
Sawyer maybe?
might have been. I don't even remember who it was. I remember the one that Zion got beat on, but
Yeah. And I remember the one that Pipkins did. But either way, I mean, B minus, did they do enough to win the game offensively, the offensive line as a whole? I
I would say
still think yes.
yeah.
Um, I don't think this wins maybe it does win most games. I don't know. It depends on who your defense is and who's calling the shots on the sidelines, but definitely a performance that should have been enough. And that just feels like it's kind of a common theme at this point. Like should have been enough, would have been enough,
Wasn't
could have been enough, but it ultimately wasn't. So uh, everything else I have on my list for today involves he who shall not be named.
but is about to be named via. I'll let you go. Bro. All right. Let's talk about him now and then take a few week hiatus, please.
Look, I would love to. I don't know if he's going to give us the opportunity to do that.
Really? Okay.
Dude, hear me out. And again, this is kind of like we just talked about this last episode. I don't I didn't want this conversation. I'm pissed that we're having this conversation now back to back weeks to start the year. But it has to be a conversation. Like we can't just avoid it. It's not the funnest conversation. Um, but it has to be a conversation at this point. Brandon Staley is now 0-2 to start the 2023 campaign, with back-to-back abysmal performances by his defense. Is there a possibility? Is there a world that exists? There is a world that exists. But how likely is it that Brandon Staley is not coaching the Chargers by week 10 of the 2023 season?
As much as I want to say that's so real, I mean, just with how stingy Telesco and how Spanos, Telesco, those families are. I don't see it. They don't feel like the type that makes a move necessarily in season. I really think, unfortunately, that they're going to ride this thing out till at least the end of the year and then hopefully clean house. But I
Okay,
don't know, man.
so ultimately, I would agree with you, and I think that your reasoning, your way of thinking right there is, I think, very accurate and reflective of how the Spanos family has operated for a long, long time. However, I think other factors come into play now. I think we are entering a very interesting time of Chargers football because I don't know if, like, I think that Tom Telesco might be forced to show his hand because I think his job is on the line. I think his job security is very thin, at least compared to where it was last year at this time. Like, I think Tom Telesco is on the hot seat as much as, I don't think Tom Telesco survives another coaching change in
I
this
agree.
organization.
I
And so,
completely agree.
if that's the case, he has to be looking at this like, fuck, I have to do something. Like, if I can't go down with Staley, like, I need to do something to at least hopefully save my job, and down the road, because at this point, like, he is going to go down with Staley. You can't survive another coaching change at this point. You're a decade in. It just, yeah, there will have to be house cleaning made. And so that had me thinking, um, okay, let's say the Chargers start very, very slow. Let's say they start 2-6. So we're 8 weeks in, and they very well could if they don't pick things up quickly. You look at the schedule over the next month. If you want to fast forward, I I get it if you don't, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that this team is 2-5, 2-6. At what point we've already seen two really bad defensive performances? How much worse could it get with Kellen Moore being the interim and Derek Ansley taking over defensive play calling duties?
You probably get better. It can't get worse. It literally can't get
Exactly.
much worse.
It literally can't get worse. And so that thinking factor paired in with, if you want to read into it, with Telesco and his job security, like I think that creates kind of this perfect storm environment this season that, yes, ultimately I don't think the Spanos family would make a change at this point in the season, but you also just went out and got a head coach in waiting to be your offensive coordinator. That is a luxury of having Kellen Moore on this staff because, and I don't even know if I'm sure someone probably brought that up when we brought him in over the offseason. Like, well, hey, if we have to can Staley after week 8, at least we have someone that can run the shows. And it might even be a nice little job interview, an audition for Kellen Moore, if that's something we want to entertain going forward. We'll have to see more. But yeah, so after today's performance, man, and I know being on Twitter, like the vibe on Twitter right after a loss is not healthy. Like it's lots of emotion, tons of emotion. But I
Our
just could
fan base
not
kind
help
of
but like,
sucks on Twitter.
what was that?
Our fan base kind of sucks on Twitter. There's just so many little whiner babies that just cry about everything, dude. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. I don't know, dude. I'm honestly looking at this. I'm kind of happy where our bye week lies, week 5. Just because obviously not the greatest start to the season. And I honestly, let's say that we're 1-3 in the bye week. I think conversations are going to be had about Brandon Staley as early as week 5 bye.
Well, I think it has to be paired with, like if they really think they can salvage the season as well, because there's a fine tipping point of like,
only 4 weeks
if
in,
you're
obviously you can.
right, but you also can't wait until you're 3-9, because at that point you might as well just let them finish out the season. It would have to be a good mixture of like, hey, we still think we can salvage this season, and I'm sorry, dude, like we just can't do any more of this. Like we have to try something new. Um, we have to make the most of this roster while we have it. That's kind of been the whole deal around this season. Is like it really is like an all-in year when you look at the how this roster is constructed. Whose contracts are going to be weighing this team down next year. Guys are getting older, all that stuff, right? So it's kind of now or never. And if they get into that window where they're 5-7 or they're 4-6, and maybe they're 4-5 and they're just about to get back to 500, but then they lose in a fucking typical Brandon Staley fashion, and it's just a backbreaking, like that could be it, where it's like week 10, you're 4-6. There's still a chance to get in, but we just know it ain't gonna happen with you. Like if we keep you around, it's over. This is our chance to either, do something with the season or just call it a wrap.
Yeah, I'm not ready to give in too much on that quite yet, but yeah, I mean Staley, I'm rooting more. I'm rooting so hard for this in season firing of Brandon Staley, just because I think the the sooner he's gone, the sooner we can get things rolling in a whole different direction, other than this complete dumpster fire of a coaching hire
Yeah.
that Brandon Staley has been. So
And I think the biggest, like, I don't know, I feel like we maybe over this last year, Charger fans got scared and or maybe even bullied into the fact of like not being premature on firing a coach. But at some point, you just have to cut the bullshit and be like, look, can this really get better? Can do we think long term like okay, like it's going to be different in 5 weeks, it's going to be different in 6 weeks next year, or it's because of XYZ that we're not. No, like we've had those excuses with Staley. We've had the injury excuse. We've had it's his first year. He doesn't have his guys yet. Give him more time. Um, I think you can never be too early to fire a coach if you can answer this question. Does he give us a chance to get better in the future down the road? I don't think
There has
that's a
been
resounding no for me with
yeah,
Brandon
there's
Staley.
not been a single instance in which I've ever felt like Brandon Staley was a good hire.
I mean, there were at times, right? Let's not forget,
Well,
like
okay, yeah,
the
sorry,
first
but
year. I mean, when he was getting compared to
this
when he
season,
was getting compared to Ted Lasso his first year, everyone was like, "Oh my god, we had the best coach ever. He's the actual real life Ted Lasso," and it's like, yeah, that was a thing. Like I don't though I there was the time where I remember that being a thing. Like, oh my gosh, we have Brandon Staley as our coach. That's so cool. Um, those days obviously are long gone because this is how we're talking about him, how we feel about him currently. But no, it's just the answer is a resounding no for me. Like, there's not. I mean, we've seen it. We've given him the pieces. We've given him the guys on the field. We've given him, the guys on the staff, and nothing's gonna change. Nothing about this team or this organization is going to get better. They already have one of the best rosters in the league. What else more do you want? What else more do you need? Like it's not going to get better. And for there, I'm not afraid to say he should be fired. And the sooner you do it, I think it would better benefit the organization. Now, it can get messy. I understand why why you might lean towards not doing it in the season. But I think this roster is mature enough. I think it's grown enough. They have enough vets on this team. If they were to make a in-season change, I don't think it might be a rebirth. They might rally around Kellen Moore and still be able to make something out of the season versus just have this season-long depressing ass just shit season. And someone said something on Twitter today that I was like, oh my God, dude, it kind of does, but please no, like, please don't be the case. And it was basically like, doesn't this feel like Anthony Lynn's last season?
Yeah.
Doesn't this give
Yeah.
you all the vibes of Anthony Lynn's, like where it was almost inevitable that we were just going to move on?
This is like a prisoner ordering a last meal before execution. Pretty much right now is what we're seeing from Brandon Staley. It feels like
like
this is a
thank God we
farewell. This
just
is a farewell
locked up
tour.
Herbert for a while because dude's probably going to be on another coaching staff, coaching regime next year, and it could be another offense too. Like, who's to say Brandon Staley getting fired might mean Kellen Moore is out the door? It might be a one and done year for him here you know, if Staley's fired and then, someone else lures Kellen Moore to a head coaching position. Like, there could be huge changes. Like, this could be it's a very crucial window of time that we're entering for the Chargers, because it's not every year. I mean, yeah, every year your season's gonna end one way or another, but it's not every year that there's implications with the front office, with the coaching staff, with huge players on the roster, like huge names on the roster. So, I mean, in that case, man, like the more I thought about it, I was like, the sooner they do it, the better off they're going to be. Like, they don't have time to wait. The way this roster's built, they have to go now.
I know we've already got so many dudes, so many veterans, like Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, that it feels like we're wasting away their last few good years, really, with this regime. Not even to mention the first, 3 of Justin Herbert's first 4 years, just wasted away by, We surrounded him with all the weapons he could possibly want. Defensively on paper, we should be stacked, but it's all been for nothing, really, is how I've looked back on these last 3 years.
It's a shame, man. It really is a shame because as long as I have been a fan of this team, they've hit on franchise players, they've hit on Hall of Fame players, they've hit on fan favorite role players that end up bringing a significant impact to teams. But the one thing they've never hit on has just been a solid coach. They've never hit on a solid coach, and it just makes you wonder, like coaching staffs I think are so easily overlooked in the NFL because so many players or so many people like to look at the players and the guys making the plays and doing all the amazing stuff on the field. But it's just so apparent when you start to really follow the game and pay attention. The best coaching staffs are usually just the best teams. Like, look at the Niners, man.
Yeah, I know.
You give Kyle Shanahan, Justin Herbert, he would literally that is his wet dream.
That's my wet dream.
They would probably not lose a single game, and if they did, it'd be like maybe 1 or 2.
I know. That's
a
dream, dude.
How much that coaching staff is getting out of that offense with a quarterback, and not to slight Brock Purdy because I do like Brock Purdy. I think he's a solid QB, and it's cool. I love his story, but I mean he's not. Yeah, he's not Justin Herbert. And that those defenses year after year, for the last decade have been towards the top. I think that's a testament to, they've had different coordinators there, but it's, it goes to show you, man, like if the Chargers could just for once hit on a huge coach, and they've had the chances to do it, they passed up, guys like Andy Reid to hire Mike McCoy. So, and Brian Daboll was in the building and they let him leave. Robert Saleh. The list goes on.
D'Amico Ryan.
Some of those other guys aren't as proven yet, but it just it goes to show you like how important that is.
Incredibly important, and that's it feels like we have every piece except for that, and that's might be the biggest piece of all. So that's definitely something's got to change, but just as for now, we just got to buckle in.
For now, we'll just keep an eye on it. I don't know if we'll talk about it every week, so you can take a deep breath on that. But we definitely have to keep an eye on it, and we think it's going to be warm. Like his seat is only going to get hotter each passing week that the Chargers aren't able to get a win, and the media is really. I mean, you think the media's been on him now? It's going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. And so he's either gone and it ultimately just fails altogether, or I don't know. We finally figure something the fuck out and put some wins together.
Something's got to happen. Something's got to change. I don't know if it's just the psyche, the morale of this team or what, but yeah, it's clear that this is not what's working with Brandon Staley at the helm. So do what you need to, but I'm sick of this. And I know our fan base is too. It's the same shit over and over, and I'm tired of it.
Same shit, different Sunday.
Shit. Here we go again.
All right, man. Anything else you want to add in here before we leave?
Yeah, sorry, random. I meant to bring it up earlier, but forgot. Dude, Tuli Pelotu is a beast. Oh. Like when either Joey or Khalil is no longer on this team, like having that guy across from him is going to be fun. So defensively, really, really like our young talent. Hopefully we can see Diane Henley out there next week.
Yeah. And shout out Joey Bosa. We can't
Joey.
Go the whole episode without giving him a shout out.
2 sacks on like 10 snaps. So yeah, that's a great ratio right there.
Yeah, and does this put him back on pace to hit my bold prediction for the year? And
speaking of bold predictions,
set a career high for sacks.
I am now 1 for 1 on the year for bold predictions. I did predict Derrick Henry to have under 100 yards. He had 80. So maybe not that. I probably could have made a hotter prediction. I definitely could have went more bold, but
That like you said on the preview episode, that is pretty bold because when you're talking
just
about
because knowing
this
how bad our
defense,
run. I mean, he had the volume to get to 100 too. He had 25 carries. So
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I would
he
say
did.
overall, I would say our run defense took a step forward against a big running back like Derrick Henry. Then shit, was that
They
last year?
did.
He
They
ran for like
just
187 on us, something like that.
I think the defense gave up 141 on the ground, so
Okay,
they played
never
well
mind.
against Derrick Henry. They just weren't able to do the same with Tyjae Spears.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So maybe not. Maybe I'll pump the brakes on that. But yeah, Tuli's a baller. That's the last thing I gotta say. Yeah, on to Minnesota, I guess.
On to Minnesota, you're going to be there,
I will be
so have
there.
fun. I hope, fingers crossed, they can at least give you guys a win while you're there. So yeah, if any of you guys are traveling to Minnesota this week for the game, Miles will be there, so I'm
Hit me
sure
up.
he'll have a great time and get lots of pictures with the Bolt fam.
For sure, dude. Looking forward to it. Wish we were 2-0 going there, but hey, if I get to see our first dub of the year, I won't be too upset.
Good stuff, man. That is all I have. So let's go ahead and get out of here. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Chargers Powder Hour, episode 84. Chargers dropping another heartbreaker, this time to the Tennessee Titans, 27-24. Be sure to follow us on social media on our Twitter and Instagram at Powder Hour Pod LA for all the latest news and updates about the pod. And if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to throw us a subscription. And don't forget to leave us a review if you guys are listening to us on Apple or Spotify. We'd appreciate it 5 stars, but be honest, helps us make the podcast better, and we appreciate your guys' feedback. So with that said, we are onward and upward to Minnesota next week. Bolt up, and we will see you guys soon.